everybody. Rabbi Bill Hamilton here, actually from Connecticut today, and delighted to be joined by our rabbinic intern, Deborah Ann Standig, and our dear friend and teacher, Rabbi David Starr, for this week's version of Well Versed. This week, we're going to take a look at a very interesting verse that appears toward the end of the first Aliyah, the first seventh of the portion, Parashat Toldot, the Shabbat. And on this week when we're very, very grateful and gathering with gratitude for Thanksgiving, I thought it would be interesting to ponder a very unusual and seemingly oddly positioned verse in the portion that speaks of the importance of continuing to focus on God's mishmarti, God's covenant, Ekev Tishma'u, this idea of listening and adhering, Toratai, Chukotai, Umishpatai, this idea that the Torah portion, specifically when we're in the narratives of the birth of Jacob and Esau, and we're in the heart of the matriarchs and patriarchs with Rebecca and Isaac, right in the center generation, we're hearing about Chukim, the irrational laws, Mishpatim, the justice laws, and the Torot, the laws of Torah. And this verse normally would make all the sense in the world to be if it were positioned in the book of Deuteronomy, after we had the Sinai revelation, after we had the sense of mitzvot and mishpatim and chukim. But here we have it so seemingly prematurely appearing in the narratives of our matriarchs and patriarchs. And I'm curious what we do with that.
It's also striking because this language does feel out of place. And if I even take us back a few verses, this instruction is the first time we're hearing God directly speak to Isaac to reinstate or perpetuate the covenantal relationship directly with Isaac in a way that the language actually echoes God in Lech Lecha when he says, Eheye imcha va'avarcheka, I will be with you and I will bless you, and uses echoing that type of language. There's something about this moment that we are used to, chukim and mishpatim being covenantal language for the entire people, but it seems in some way that Isaac's life is a microcosm of what will be true for the entire people. Ultimately, we know the first generation that is in deep covenantal relationship with God, they know how to do that. But Isaac is our first removed, the one who was put on the altar, the one who never hears from God for a long time. There's the potential to be removed from the covenant. And in this moment, God says, I want to make sure you understand, you're next in the line. I have relationship with you, which feels very Devarim-like when the children of the Israelites are told, you might not literally have been alive at Sinai, but you were there. So how can I perpetuate a relationship when you've been passive so far? I need you to be active. So that's how that language might, for me, be triggering.
You know, the Bible, plays with these different metaphors, these different phrases and words for the relationship between God and humans, or whether it's sort of potentially erotic things, between love relationships between equals, marital partners, whatever, as opposed to parents and children. And I think that in either case, we tend to default to, well, the connection is emotional. And the idea that says connection could be both very powerful, but it still does contain content, and that God is, on some level, a teacher and a giver of things that will help us make the world that he wants to make, to make it holy. I mean, to me, that's my guess as to what is going on here, which is as important as these very personal, idiosyncratic relationships are between the patriarchs and the matriarchs and God. I mean, it can't just be about the personal. It's got to be something larger, and that is some sort of set of commands, teachings, what have you.
As we get ready to embrace a grateful weekend, a grateful week of Thanksgiving, may our joy and gratitude be outgoing, and may we find ways in which the lessons of Torah that resonated once upon a time continue to touch and inspire our lives today.
Right.
Mm.
That's your call.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.